The following program is paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management, providing financial advice since 1993. At Lifespan Wealth Management, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience, and you can learn more about them by visiting their website at retirerelax.com. While you're on the site, visit the special report section, which provides great financial education information on many different topics. You can also sign up to receive their digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money. They also offer seminars to the community at no cost. If you're looking for a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give them a call to discuss the topics you would like them to cover. Again, their contact number is 478-922-8100. Now, from the Macon studio of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, Jonathan Eisner, and Corey Albrecht.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back with you this weekend. We apologize for the condition of the audio last week, but Sherry and I were traveling, and we really wanted to participate in the show. We tested the process before we left, but it appears that we're going to need a better method if we're going to call into the show again. So again, apologies, and we hope to make up for that this week. All right, market update here. The U.S. economy faces renewed inflationary pressures this week as escalating Middle East conflict pushes crude oil prices sharply higher. The spike in energy costs is driving up Treasury yields and unsettling Wall Street ahead of next week's Federal Reserve policy meeting. And some of the macroeconomic drivers this week were surging in oil prices. The West Texas Intermediate, or WTI, and the Brent crude oil futures surged. Renewed U.S. strikes on Iran and threats to key transit routes pushed prices near $95 a barrel. And I think this morning it was sitting right at 100, which ultimately translates into increases at the gas pump. Increased crude costs drove the AAA national average gas price past $4 per gallon. This threatens to disrupt the cooling and disinflation trend we achieved in June. The persistent hostilities pushed the 10-year Treasury note yield up for 3 straight sessions to 4.64%, a 2-month high. Investors are bracing for higher and longer interest rates.
And all of this directly impacts the Federal Reserve's stance. Fed Chairman Kevin Warsh has entered the customary pre-meeting blackout period. Policymakers are widely expected to hold rates steady at the July 29th meeting. However, traders are pricing in roughly a 61% chance of a rate hike in September. But in the labor market, things seem to be more stable as the unemployment rate hovered around 4.2%. Average hourly earnings remain steady, indicating that wages are not currently a primary driver of inflation. Consumer sentiment, June retail sales, and consumer sentiment indicators displayed solid momentum, heavily boosted by heavy spending during the World Cup. It is expected to see consumer sentiment improving and spending pick up back toward the end of the year.
Yep, and that's good news. All right, we'd like to send thanks to our generous and caring listeners who have contributed to the Support Now Fund for Gabriel Eisner. We spoke with Jonathan Thursday about Gabe and the family. Gabe is now at the Shepherd Center and has started rehab. And he has a big hill to climb, but he still has his sense of humor, and that was not injured in the accident. You can imagine how life-altering this is going to be, not just for Gabe, but for the entire family. And speaking with Jonathan, they're already having to consider remodeling the house for wheelchair access. So if you'd like to donate, please visit Support Now and just search for Eisner.
Yes, absolutely. Over the years, we have heard about a high-speed rail line between Atlanta and Savannah, and it looks like the project is moving forward. Yes, it is still in the planning stages, and local leaders are urging residents in this area to weigh in on the future of passenger rail in Georgia, saying public feedback will help determine whether Macon is included in the proposed Atlanta to Savannah route. To weigh in, the Georgia DOT is accepting public comments through August 6th as part of its Atlanta-Savannah intercity passenger rail study. This could help Macon continue to grow and hopefully bring more industry to this area, which is a win. Local leaders are encouraging residents to complete the agency's online survey before the comment period closes. The simplest way I've found to get the survey is by researching Atlanta to Savannah passenger rail. From there, you will find the survey. It takes about 10 minutes, and you're not required to submit any personal information other than your email. So please take a few minutes and get this done.
And this is great from the Small Business Administration that America hits an all-time record for business formation. About 513,000 new businesses are being formed each month.
I find that amazing.
Yep.
I wonder if this is because so many people are hitting their retirement age but want to keep doing something other than a job, or that their retirement income isn't really enough to give them the life they want. I have clients who work for a local hospital as fake patients so that the new doctors can get some practice time. They don't get paid a lot, but they like being part of helping these doctors get to the next level, and it gives them a little extra cash flow. I have another client that retired from automotive repair, and now he flips cars and is doing amazing. Plus, he's having a good time. So,
Yeah.
Any other comments or ideas?
No, I just think when times start getting tough and the jobs are hard to get, a lot of times people do create their own businesses.
Yep.
We saw this happen back in the late 90s when we were living in Jonesboro.
In the past weeks, we have discussed how much rent across America has increased, and despite the increased minimum wage, rent for many has simply become a cost that is stretching budgets to the limit. Last week mentioned that adding a roommate could help alleviate some of the stress on a person's budget.
Yeah, and for many single persons, there are options. The first is to move home with mom and dad. And as simple as that sounds, there are many who never want to return to the old homestead for one reason or another. Now, we can't solve those lingering issues on the show, but they still have other options. The options we're going to discuss is having a roommate. And as simple as this sounds, there are many considerations you need to be aware of before you let others occupy your home.
Whether you're a renter or you own a home, there are things you need to do to protect yourself. So we're going to go through these items.
Yep. In my time in the military, I've seen many people that decide to go in with others to rent a place off base to make it more affordable for everyone. And if you could split a $1,200 per month rent bill with 3 other people, that sounds like a great way to save $900 per month, plus the amount each of the others would be contributing towards the utilities. This is a great way to keep your budget aligned with your income. And with the right roommates, it could create lasting friendships and memories.
But there are some important considerations that we are going to discuss that will not only save you a lot of frustration, but can save you a lot of money on the back end if a roommate either damages the space or bails out on you right as rent is due.
You bet. And I remember a time in Mountain Home, Idaho, where 6 guys decided to rent a place near Strike Dam together. It was a nice place, and the rent for the place was more than any one of them could afford by themselves. But together, it was not only doable, but it was a great way to get out of the dorms and have a place to truly let their buzz cut haircuts down a little bit. I know most people know what I'm talking about, especially if you've ever been in the military. Well, within the first few months, a few of the guys decided it was time to have a kegger and invite a bunch of guys and gals from the base to come out, hang out, drink some beer, and have a good time. Unfortunately, 2 of the 6 did not want this at their place, but it happened anyway. Now, let me back up a second and give you some information on how this place was rented. The senior ranking person of the 6 was the person who cobbled together the other 5 to rent, and he was the one who signed the lease and put down the security deposit. The others simply had to pay for their fair share of rent and utilities each month. The guy who signed the lease was one of the people who did not want the party. Regardless, peer pressure prevailed and the party took place. And back then, if you were having a party like this in the rural area like Strike Dam, word gets out and people you don't even know show up for free beer. Out there was always people looking for something fun because there was not a lot to do.
That's an understatement.
It is, right. So the party took place and way more people than were invited showed up to the party. Unfortunately, there was damage to the house and the landlord was not happy. The landlord pointed out that the lease limited the number of people to 4 unrelated people, not 6. And he mandated that the damage to the house be fixed immediately. And I don't know the exact cost, but I do know that it caused a big rift between these 6 people because when it came time to pay for the damage, only one person besides the leaseholder paid their share. And that was the other person who did not want the party to begin with. So 4 of the 6 people who said they would join together and have cheaper rent bailed on the leaseholder and their friendship, leaving the main person holding the bag. And that was an event that I witnessed, and it has stuck with me for the rest of my life. What I learned is that there are simple ways to get people to behave properly in your space, and that would be having any person who moves in with you in your home sign a legally binding contract.
Agreed. If you decide to rent an apartment or house together, then you all should be on the lease agreement. The contract doesn't need to be overly complicated, but having one puts everyone on notice that what they are doing is legally binding, and they know you mean business when it comes to the care of the rental space and the payment of the money they have agreed to in that contract. So let's discuss how this works. One item at our disposal today that we did not have in the mid-'80s when the party at Strike Dam took place was the internet. So for today's landlord, they can easily run full background checks on prospective tenants. You can get their credit backgrounds to include their eviction history, if any. But remember, you are required to obtain the applicant's written consent before running a background or credit check. Under the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, landlords must provide a written disclosure that a report will be obtained and get the prospective tenant's authorization before using a third-party screening service. If they refuse, then you don't rent to them. Their refusal is a big red flag. Also understand that different jurisdictions may have different guidelines that landlords need to follow. For instance, in Macon, you must also follow federal HUD guidelines in how criminal and credit histories are evaluated. The written consent is typically included as a clause within the standard rental application. A good written application is a must and should include a disclosure that you will be using a third-party service like Zillow Rental Manager, Avail, or Rent Spree to check their credit history. These platforms handle the process legally by verifying the applicant's identity and securing the required written consent. There are also resources online that can generate a general roommate agreement. Just make sure they are from a reputable company and that it covers the state you are in. So now that you have an agreement, you can vet the prospective renter. And I will tell you that you should do this with friends too. Too many friendships are destroyed over money, and this at least gives everyone an upfront notice of what their responsibilities are and the ramifications for not following through on the items in the agreement.
Yep.
Next, you want to be sure to define the responsibilities for each area. Common areas definitely need to be included in shared chores lists, and there should be a schedule for these chores as well.
You're right, Corey. I had a roommate in a little house that I owned here in Warner Robins. I rented him a room and we shared the common areas, but he was a pig and left the kitchen and the living room in terrible conditions all the time. And once you start picking up and cleaning up for others, they will believe that is how it's always going to be done, and the resentment and tension that builds becomes, just tough to deal with. I eventually had to kick this guy out, and the lesson that I learned then was not to ignore red flags. You should address minor boundary violations immediately before they escalate.
I had friends down in Florida. It was 3 of them, and they were renting an apartment together. And one of them paid to have his lease broken so that he could leave because of how messy they kept the apartment.
Wow. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, it was like 2 months worth of rent that you just paid and you were out. And he just, because he couldn't stand it anymore.
And sometimes when you have friends that you want to go in on a place like that with, unless you've been to their house, you don't know exactly, what kind of hygiene they have and, how they're going to keep the place up. Yeah.
And I think it was also a little bit of a girlfriend that came in that wasn't in the picture when they first leased it that kind of contributed to that messiness, and it just became too much for them.
Absolutely.
You also need to discuss lifestyle habits. If it is your house, set the policy up front. If you're going in on an apartment, then you should be sure to create the house rules. Items such as quiet hours, parties, and the number of guests allowed at any one time. I mentioned quiet hours. You need to remember that one person's definition of quiet may not be the same as yours, so be specific. A good rule is, if it's your house, it's your rules.
Absolutely.
Once you have this information in the contract and someone is ready to sign the agreement, you should document pre-existing damage to the space they are assigned. And be sure to take time-stamped photos of the property before they move in and provide them copies with the signed agreement.
I want to jump in here and say that you should also include the utilities in the agreement. Never split utilities verbally. Always track split bills using a dedicated digital app. If you are the lessee and you sublet and the sub moves out unexpectedly and perhaps has left the place in a substandard condition, perhaps with damages, you could be left in the position to fund the entire rent and pay for damages out of your pocket. If you are the only person on a master lease, then you hold all the legal risk. The landlord is not going to help you track down your roommate for their unpaid share. And you should remember that in the eyes of the law, your roommate acts as your month-to-month subtenant. So be careful and understand what you are doing before you sublet. A lot of rental agreements prohibit subletting. With a rental agreement in hand that has been signed by the renter and you have documented the condition of the property, you can sleep a little better. But understand that just because you have a rental agreement, getting someone to pay may require you to sue them in a small claims court using your rental agreement and proof of the condition prior to them moving out if there was damage.
Yep, it'll pay off. And I know we did not mention a deposit before now, but if someone does leave and perhaps has damaged the place, you can keep their deposit to cover the repairs. You'll want to itemize all repairs and get a written professional receipt for every single repair you find. Then deduct it from the deposit. Depending on where you are located, you may be required to send a formal demand letter, draft an official letter specifying the exact debt and the payment deadline.
And I just wanted to add something in. My parents have a rental property here in Warner Robins, and the previous renters trashed the place before. Not like holes in the walls, carpet was torn from the dogs, and it wasn't like someone bumped into the wall and made like a little dent. Like it looked like a bowling ball had gone through the wall.
Jeez.
And they were like, oh, well, that's just normal wear and tear.
No,
So
that's not normal.
adding
wear and
that
tear.
in and like specifying what you expect and what the security deposit would pay for, I think that's also important to add in there.
It's not a bad thought. I think though a bowling ball in the wall, I don't think a court would call that normal wear and
Right.
tear. So yeah, but you're right.
Well, our daughter Shelby was living with that guy. He moved into her house that she was paying the mortgage for, and he would get angry and he would punch holes in the doors, literally. We flew out there 10 years in a row to help fix up that house, and every time we went out, there was more damage. It was so insane. I don't know why she got a baby with him. That's why.
Right.
That's why he stuck around. But anyways, and in closing on this subject, we'd recommend you have a notary available when signing the document. You'd be surprised how much more weight that adds to the agreement in the eyes of the lessee. One last thing, as we said at the beginning, things are financially tight right now. Once you have a person's deposit, do not let them ask for some of it back because they are short on money that month. This is a big red flag, so protect yourself and keep that money in a rental account so you don't have to come up with a repayment of the deposit when someone does move out and deserves a refund.
Yep.
We've just seen a lot of bad
We have.
situations with this topic, so please be careful. All righty. Let's discuss a topic that affects all of us, whether we know it or not, and that is financial literacy. If you are financially illiterate, the decisions you make could be drastically different than those who are not financially literate. Every year, the TIAA Institute and the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center releases the results from their personal finance survey. This survey asks 28 questions to measure how well U.S. adults understand basic financial concepts in areas such as earning, consuming, saving, investing, borrowing, and managing debt, insurance, comprehending risk, and identifying go-to information sources. Sadly, the results showed that U.S. adults answered just 47% of the questions correct on average. That turns out to be the lowest result in the survey's 10-year history. This raises some real questions and concerns. People who lack financial literacy are potentially at greater risk of making common money mistakes such as taking on too much debt, not saving enough, or not building an emergency fund.
I looked at the national statistics for this and found that in 2025, the average U.S. adult lost an estimated $948 purely due to the lack of personal finance knowledge. And on a macroeconomic scale, that equates to a collective loss of over $246 billion per year.
Staggering numbers.
A commitment to financial literacy throughout life can help counter these trends. Beyond allowing you to build a healthy relationship with money and support your overall financial wellness, remaining financially literate over time can enhance your financial confidence, reducing your vulnerability to fraud, and position you to reach your long-term goals. But what exactly is financial literacy? In concise terms, financial literacy is the ability to understand and apply money concepts so you can make informed decisions about earning, spending, saving, investing, borrowing, insurance, taxes, and risk.
Yeah. And at a high level, financial literacy is about understanding key financial concepts and having the ability to put them into practice. This encompasses a wide range of skills from budgeting, debt management, and making investment decisions aligned with your risk tolerance to saving up for major financial goals such as education and the purchase of a home and then retirement. Financial literacy can also help you make more informed choices around the frequent financial decisions you will likely need to make throughout your life, such as choosing a credit card or managing student loan debt or comparing insurance policies and perhaps even negotiating a car lease or getting a mortgage.
Like most educational pursuits, financial literacy isn't a once-and-done exercise. External factors such as shifting tax rules, economic forces, bull and bear markets, and digital innovation continue to alter the financial landscape. At the same time, personal factors like marriage, divorce, children, aging, or illness can all change the way we relate to and manage our money. This makes it important to maintain financial literacy throughout our lives and to revisit the skills most relevant to each stage. Here are some strategies to do just that. Look at the following topics online: budgeting and cash flow, emergency savings, debt repayment and credit management, investing and risk tolerance, insurance and risk management, tax planning, retirement income planning, estate planning, caregiving, and fraud prevention. Whether you're a beginner or would like to delve deeper into more complex financial concepts, there are countless educational resources available to you. Websites like Investopedia, platforms like TEDx, and trusted resources such as FINRA, FDIC Money Smart, the CFPB, and the GFLEC, and the people that produce this survey, feature courses, tools, research, and webinars on various financial topics. Wealth Enhancement also regularly publishes articles and insights and hosts educational events and webinars to show knowledge to help you create financial freedom. You could take a college class. Many colleges offer courses in personal finance that you can enroll in or audit. Look for community colleges or online programs that are both accessible and affordable. Additionally, take some time to research the programs first to make sure they deliver the education you're looking for. To stay updated on the latest trends and tips, consider subscribing to financial blogs, newsletters, and podcasts such as Your Money Radio Show, which you're listening to right now. Regular exposure to financial content can keep you informed and help you stay on track toward your financial goals. We read the Wall Street Journal every day and several other publications each week.
And talking about going back to school or auditing a class, when I was in college, I had a finance class, and we had two members who were in their mid-60s who took the class just because they had heard that it was a good resource for them and that it was, essentially...
It refreshes the knowledge you have.
Exactly. And they had a blast. They showed up every day and were really engaged in it, and they knew that what they were getting out of it was worth their time.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
So, to remain engaged and motivated to learn, take some time to figure out your learning style. Some people prefer in-person classes or workshops, while others thrive in online settings. Consider audio and video resources like podcasts and webinars if you learn better through listening and watching. Try reading online articles as well as physical or ebooks to see which you prefer. The trick is to find what works best for you and stick with it.
Yeah, and as you gain greater understanding of financial topics, a great way to solidify your financial literacy is by putting what you've learned into practice. Some action steps that you can take include creating a budget, which is foundational, to track your income and expenses, and then build an emergency fund by setting aside 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses to cover unexpected costs without resorting to credit or loans. And then developing a debt repayment plan that prioritizes paying off high-interest debt first. Then you could also take steps to improve your credit score by paying bills on time, keeping your credit card balances low, and opening only necessary credit accounts. And setting up savings and investing accounts to meet long-term goals such as retirement and reviewing your broader retirement planning strategy over time. So protecting your assets with appropriate insurance coverage would be next, and then reducing financial burdens by prioritizing your own financial wellness.
As you embark on this journey, keep in mind that financial literacy is not something you achieve overnight. Be patient with yourself. Review what you've learned regularly, and don't be afraid to revisit complex topics. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Learning new skills is rarely a linear process. Fortunately, you don't have to go it alone. Consider finding a mentor with financial knowledge who can offer guidance, share experiences, and provide accountability as you work together towards your financial goals. An experienced financial advisor can also provide you with personalized advice tailored to your specific situation and help with everything from budgeting to retirement planning and tax planning. By continuously educating yourself, making informed decisions, and seeking professional advice, you can gain lifelong financial literacy skills to build a stronger financial future.
The thing to remember is why financial literacy is important throughout life. Financial literacy matters because your financial decisions change as your whole circumstances change. Early career decisions may focus on budgeting and debt, while later life decisions may involve retirement income, healthcare costs, taxes, caregiving, and legacy planning. A lot of the things we have discussed can be accomplished without the aid of a financial advisor. However, you might consider speaking with a financial advisor when your financial life and finances become more complex, or when you're preparing for a major transition, or perhaps maybe you want to personalized guidance on investing, tax planning, retirement income, estate planning, or long-term financial goals. But if you feel like you're not as financially literate as you should or could be, simply look for free advice from reputable sources online. You'll be surprised just how quickly your knowledge will increase. Visit our website at retirerelax.com, and you'll find a lot of educational information there, and it's free.
Yeah, and you see a lot of people sitting around just looking at their phone, looking at, stupid videos, right?
Right.
Take a little time out of your day and just reprioritize what you're looking at, and you're going to gain a lot of knowledge really quick.
And when you are scrolling through those apps and you see a finance related app or video, watch it a couple times.
Yeah.
And then you'll start getting more of them. So if you watch it all the way through one or two times, then it'll just kind of get rid of all the crap, to say it nicely, that you see, and it might start filtering in some more useful information.
That's right.
Very good.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, let's discuss the cost of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and YOLO, you only live once. To put it bluntly, the primary financial cost of FOMO and YOLO is the long-term destruction of wealth caused by high-interest debt and lost compound interest. Now, while these mindsets prioritize immediate gratification and lifestyle experiences, they often lead to severe compounding financial consequences. And for discussion purposes, we're just going to use one term, FOMO, to cover FOMO and YOLO. Now, we just finished talking about being financially literate. And when it comes to spending using FOMO and YOLO justifications, you may want to pump the brakes a little bit and really think about the true cost of whatever it is that you're considering buying or the trip that you want to take. And don't misunderstand what we're saying. We're not saying you can't have fun in life and you need to squirrel away all of your money. What we're saying is that the data shows that a large cadre of Gen Zers and millennials are more inclined to be guilty of this. These generations came of the age during the internet era, and many find themselves comparing their lives to others that they see online. And that's akin to keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping Up with the Joneses was coined in 1913 by cartoonist Arthur R. Pop Memand. The comic satirized the American obsession with social status. This is nothing new, but it is definitely much easier today to see how one's successes and failures compare to others. The cost is real, and it is putting a lot of people in a bad financial position. In a new study conducted by Qualtrics and Credit Karma, they interviewed over 1,000 Americans aged 18 to 34 and found that nearly 40% said they have gone into debt just to keep up with their friends' lifestyles. Most commonly, they combat their FOMO by spending on food, travel, clothes, alcohol, and electronics. Often, FOMO encourages purchasing items on credit cards, and with the average credit card charging almost 25%, that debt becomes difficult to pay off. Spending money on immediate gratification removes it from the market. For instance, a lifestyle splurge of $10,000 today carries an opportunity cost of over $19,600 in 10 years, assuming a modest 7% compounded annual return.
And let me jump in here. You think about these destination weddings and all the people that are invited to it.
It's terrible.
They'll spend that amount of money going to these places and buying the clothing and all the things, the trappings that go with it.
We have a client that was going to 3 a year, and they were all like in Europe, Hawaii, and they had to buy different clothes to wear every day, to this party, to that party, to whatever, to the beach.
Yep.
And the cost was exorbitant. And so they finally said, I'm not doing it anymore. And they just had to shut the whole thing down for themselves.
They have to be honest with the people that are inviting them. They say, hey, this is not in my budget. This is not in my lifestyle. I
don't even know if that trend has gone away or if it's still around. I haven't heard from anybody lately.
Corey?
I think it's still, I kind of had a similar situation where I was part of a wedding party and we had a joint bachelorette party. So we all went to the same place and there was outfits for each day where everyone was kind of matching in the group. But as far as, I think I spent maybe $40 on each outfit.
Yeah.
I was not overly. Now I know that some people
But you're smart with your money and you really look for bargains, so you just don't run out to Dillard's or whatever and just throw $65 down for a shirt.
Exactly. Yeah. And we went to Miami, but with everyone else already living in Florida, it was just a 3-hour drive, and then we split an Airbnb 12 ways.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that
was smart.
When it was like that, I think I spent like $300 for the whole weekend.
No, that's not bad. That's tolerable.
No. And that was for the wedding
break
party.
Your budget.
Yeah. To just go to a wedding, just to be in the wedding and spend $500-$600, that seems a little bit extreme.
It's way worse than that.
Worse.
My client that met with me, she was having to spend $2,000 to $3,000 on each trip because they were flying overseas.
Right.
And then having to have a hotel and having to have all these special clothes. I mean, I couldn't believe she was telling me this. It was like, are you kidding me? And she said, finally, she said, I have enough.
Yeah.
I've had way enough. And I'm telling all my friends, forget it.
I mean, if you're going to have these destination weddings, maybe you pony it up yourself if you want all these people to be there.
Or maybe the destination should be your backyard.
Right. Strike Dam in Idaho.
Prioritizing the now frequently derails foundational life milestones, such as building an emergency fund, securing a comfortable retirement, or purchasing a home. Many complain that they could never retire, but it's all about the decisions you make. In the investment world, FOMO manifests as chasing overvalued trend stocks, cryptocurrencies, or speculative assets. This emotional impulse trading often results in devastating portfolio drops of 50 to 75% during sudden market corrections. Like we said earlier, you do not have to completely sacrifice living in the moment to secure your financial future. Balancing both worlds requires intentional structure. The first thing you could do is create a dedicated YOLO fund, often a separate automated savings account exclusively meant for guilt-free luxury spending, travel, and concerts. And I think people talk about this where I want to enjoy life when I'm young enough to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But is that worth living paycheck or security, Social Security and retirement?
Yeah, because you're exactly right, because they're trading off having a good time in their younger years, but they don't realize it's going to cost them a lot to enjoy their senior years.
Right.
And they're not going to have it.
When you can't fix it.
That's right.
So
all right. Well, like we were talking about, setting some hard boundaries. Once your monthly discretionary budget hits zero, you should freeze all lifestyle purchases until the next month cycle begins. You need to practice radical transparency, and this is what we're talking about. Being up and honest, front and honest with the people who are inviting you to destination weddings. Just be honest with your friends about your financial boundaries. Suggesting low cost or free alternatives often relieves the mutual financial pressure within social groups. And once you get on the merry-go-round of paying high-interest debt, especially for ordinary expenses, it can be tough to get off of and regain control over your long-term financial goals. But once you get off the debt merry-go-round, you'll never want to go back. FOMO extends beyond making rash decisions on eating out, buying clothes, or buying expensive concert tickets. Fear of missing out on investment opportunities may drive you to make hasty investment decisions without research. You don't want to be left behind while all your friends become the next generation of crypto billionaires, but jumping into an investment without considering it is almost like gambling. And gambling, a poorly researched investment, is unlikely to make you rich.
So a recent example of this is SpaceX.
Yes.
You received tons of calls from people wanting to buy the stock immediately, even though it was overpriced.
That's right. And, we had, I won't say a lot, but it's quite a few looking to buy into SpaceX. And, was it FOMO? Or was it just wanting to be on the next big thing that Elon Musk, created because he's got a pretty good track record? Who knows? But at least the people I was dealing with could afford to buy a small stake in the company, and no one really was saying, "Hey, I want to put $100,000 into it."
It was more like 2,500 or
yeah,
something
it was
like
small.
that.
But it was it's. I understand a little bit of that, but at least you have a guy that's got a good track record behind him on making these things happen. But yeah, I think a lot of FOMO was going on that initial offering day.
Agreed.
So, all right. Next, we're going to discuss house flipping. And as you probably already understand, flipping involves buying properties to renovate and resell quickly. And it requires more than just binge watching HGTV and picking up a paintbrush. Flipping generated median profits of about $73,000 per property in 2024, though novices are among those who constantly earn less than that. And interest rate, as interest rates remain double what they were just a few years ago, and inflation keeps rising renovation costs, investors continue to have a tough time making a buck flipping. This makes it all the more important for those It makes it all the more important that those flipping homes avoid the costly errors that can be ruinous for many. There are substantial risks many house flipping people skip over, from unexpected renovation costs to market downturns. Understanding these challenges and how to avoid common pitfalls can mean the difference between a profitable flip and a mistake so costly that it takes you out of the game entirely.
Unlike traditional real estate investing, where investors buy properties to rent them out, flippers aim to buy, renovate, and resell properties as quick as possible to maximize profits and minimize holding costs. Success in flipping comes from two main sources: market appreciation in rapidly growing neighborhoods and adding value through improvements through a property. For instance, a flipper might buy a dated home in an up-and-coming area for $300,000, spend $50,000 on strategic renovations, and sell it for $400,000, earning a $50,000 profit before accounting for holding costs and taxes. However, every day a property sits unsold costs money in mortgage payments, utilities, property taxes, and insurance, aka carrying costs. This is why experienced flippers often focus on speed rather than squeezing out maximum profits, because those carrying costs can quickly overtake potential profits.
Absolutely. So how does someone get started in the house flipping game? First and foremost, you need to have capital to work with. A banker is not going to give you the 20% to put down on a piece of real estate unless you already have a strong working relationship with them. And a 20% down payment is normal for investment properties. Let's assume you have the capital. The next step is to identify a property. Randy got licensed as a realtor, and that is how we found our first fixer-upper on MLS. It was a total wreck, and we had a good time fixing it up. Randy would go to Lowe's and ask them how to fix everything from refinishing sheetrock to laying tile, and we sold it 2 years later for twice what we paid for it. We ended up flipping 12 properties, and we had a good time with it.
Yeah, we did.
Successful flipping begins with getting a reasonable purchase price. Professional flippers often use the 70% rule, meaning never pay more than 70% of a property's after repair value minus renovation costs. For example, if a house is worth $300,000 after renovations and needs $50,000 in repairs, the maximum purchase price would be as follows. The $300,000 times the 0.7% will be about $210,000 minus the $50,000 to fix it, leaves you with $160,000.
Yep. That formula builds in a margin for unexpected cost, market shifts, and profit. But you'll need accurate estimates of both the after repair value and the renovation cost, and that takes skill that only comes with experience and a greater market knowledge. Having the ability to visualize what needs to be done to rehab a property enables you to create a project list and estimates. Often the novice goes overboard with rehabs, and when you do that, it eats into your bottom line.
And this goes back to the discussion we just had on being financially literate. You need to be financially literate to get into flipping homes, as there are so many ways to lose money or pay too much for a product or a service.
Absolutely. Like any other small business, flipping requires time, money, planning, patience, skill, and effort. It will likely end up being harder and more expensive than you ever imagined. Take it lightly at your own peril. Now, if you're just looking to get rich quick by flipping a home, you could end up in the poorhouse. There are 5 mistakes to avoid when you get into the business of flipping homes. The first is understanding if you are actually financially prepared to understand this endeavor. Investing in real estate is expensive. The first and most obvious cost is the amount needed to buy the property. And if you're financing the acquisition, you'll probably need to come up with a down payment, and you'll need to make the mortgage payments, including the interest.
You will need to research your financing options to determine the best choice for your needs and to find the right lender. Paying cash certainly eliminates the cost of interest, but even then, there are holding costs and opportunity costs for tying up your cash. Even if you manage to overcome the financial hurdles of flipping a house, don't forget about capital gains taxes, which will take a chunk of your profit. Making a profit is more challenging than before, as the median return on investments, or ROI, in recent years has dipped under 30%, down from over 50% a decade ago. This doesn't mean you can't make money. It's just that you need to be more careful to ensure you do. Even if you get if you get every detail right, changing market conditions could mean that every assumption you made at the beginning will be wrong at the end. And I think that
can happen.
It really can. And I think there's a group in our area, in the Warner Robins area, that does this flipping, because I've seen houses that are in need of repair, and then they all come back on the market 3 months later with a very similar like fix-up.
Yep.
And they've done beautiful work, but I think that one of them they might have bit the bullet on.
Oh, really?
Because it is a beautiful house inside, immaculate, but it's a $400,000 house in a $150,000 neighborhood.
Yeah, see, that's a problem right there.
That's bad.
Exactly. And it's been sitting for like 5 months now, and I think that they kind of priced themselves out of that one.
One of the rules is you really don't want to ever own the most expensive house in a neighborhood.
Right.
So
flipping houses is time consuming. Those with day jobs face a difficult choice: either sacrifice evenings and weekends to handle renovations personally, or hire contractors and still spend significant time managing the project. Even with contractors, investors must coordinate inspections, handle permits, and ensure work meets local building codes. If it doesn't, you'll need to spend more time and money to bring it up to par. Selling the property also requires a great deal of time. If you show it to prospective buyers yourself, you may spend a good deal of time commuting to and from the property and in meetings. If you use a real estate agent, you'll have to pay a commission. For many, it might make more sense to stick with a day job without taking on financial risk and a major time commitment.
That's right. And possessing construction skills is important. This allows you to put some sweat equity into the project, which ultimately helps your bottom line. If you're handy with a hammer, enjoy laying carpet, and can hang drywall, roof a house, or install a kitchen sink, then you have important skills that save money when flipping a house. But if you don't know a Phillips head screwdriver from a flathead one, you'll need to pay a professional to do the renovations and the repairs. And all that cuts into the odds of making a substantial profit on your investment.
The importance of patience in house flipping is critical. Professionals take their time and wait for the right property. Novices rush out and buy the first house that they see. Then they hire the first contractor who makes a bid to address the work that they can't do themselves. Professionals either do the work themselves or rely on a network of prearranged, reliable contractors. Novices hire real estate agents to help sell the house. Their commissions eat into profits. Many professionals sell the properties themselves to minimize costs and maximize profits. Novices expect to rush through the process, slap on a coat of paint, and earn a fortune. Professionals understand that buying and selling houses takes time and that profit margins are sometimes slim. The bottom line, at any time, at least a half dozen TV shows are available to stream featuring amiable, well-dressed investors who make the flipping process look fast, fun, and profitable. But making a nice profit quickly by flipping a home is not as easy as those shows make it appear to be.
You know, the first home we ever bought was a shotgun-style structure. I think it was 950 square feet or something like that. You know, the type that got its name because you could fire a shotgun at the through the front door and have a clear shot all the way to the back door.
And it looked like somebody had. The windows
Yes.
were broken out.
Yes.
The front porch was rotting. The floors were not level.
Yeah.
It had an above-ground pool in the backyard full
Yeah.
of slimy water.
I was just going to talk about that. This place was an assumable VA loan, and we decided to move into it while we repaired it. The swimming pool in the backyard, it was an above-ground pool.
It was
and
huge.
and it was powered by a drop cord that someone had just cut the end off of it and had raw wires connecting right beside the pool. I was like,
Laying in the grass.
yeah, it was terrible. I mean, and at closing, the old guy that we were buying it from kept saying, "Hey, I need to show you the well," and we thought he was referring to the one in the back side of the property, and so we weren't too concerned about it. But as soon as closing was completed, the guy jumped in his old Cadillac and headed to Florida, and we never heard from him again. When we returned to the home after closing, the entire back room was wet. And
Florida ceiling.
and we had seen a 3-inch hole in the floor, but we just figured it was another thing that had to be fixed. It turns out the well that he was referring to was under that hole.
in the back of the house.
It was a 4-foot round hole, and they had cinder blocked around the edges of it. So when you looked under the house, it just looked like concrete pillars. And the crazy part was that the well surged on a regular basis, and the hole in the floor was created by the surging water. So we called the health department, and they determined that the well was not fit to drink and recommended capping it. And they told us the process we needed to use, which involved a lot of gravel, a large gravel. And
which we shoveled every night.
Yep. And in the end, I think we bought 24 tons of the stuff. And every night we'd come home from work and we'd have a contest to see who could take the most wheelbarrows from the backyard up a 2x6 ramp into the back of the house, dump it, and come back. And it was quite fun. Anyway, they told us how to do this, and we had to shovel a lot of that gravel into the hole, and then we had to cap it with a lot of concrete. The gravel was an expense we had not expected, but we lived on cheap food and did most of the work ourselves, and ended up making, and you said 2 share, but it was really 4 times what we had invested in the purchase and the supplies to rehab the house. But we put a lot of sweat equity into the place. But then,
And we lived in it while we were doing it.
but back then, I didn't really have the skills to do some of the things that I was trying to do. So I spent a lot of time at Lowe's talking to the experts on the right products and the processes to tackle these projects. And my dad was extremely good with this sort of stuff, and he would come and help when he could. And he actually helped us install the HVAC system, which was a big saving. And I'll tell you, one other little funny thing about that property was the grass was 4 or 5 feet tall. It was like hay in the front yard. It was terrible. Vines growing out of the trees. It was crazy. But when we cut the grass, we actually found the lawnmower that the guy owned. It was
There were like cars that were dumped behind the back.
behind the back. We had to
there
get rid
were
of them all.
just old appliances just thrown in the grass. It was
But
crazy.
after 2 years, it looked really nice. We put the for sale by owner sign in the front yard, and it sold same day.
Yep. A lady showed up with a check.
An investor.
Yep. Very good. Retirement planning can feel like navigating a sailboat through the Strait of Hormuz. From shifting inflation rates to unknowable healthcare costs, it can seem impossible to know exactly what route to take and how much to save. There's a big difference in wanting to retire and being ready to retire. So let's discuss what retirement readiness means and how to assess your readiness. In the most simplified terms, retirement readiness means having a financial plan in place that supports the lifestyle you have envisioned for yourself after you stop working. This plan should include understanding your retirement savings, expenses in retirement, how much income you'll have each month, Social Security timing, healthcare costs in retirement, and taxes. Once you understand these items, you can better determine if you are ready to retire. The Thrivent 2026 Retirement Expectation Survey found that while 58% of workers expect to exit their primary career on schedule, 47% of those doubt they will ever achieve complete retirement. Consequently, 36% expect to continue working during their retirement years to support themselves.
As you would expect, the degree of confidence varies from generation to generation, with Gen Z having the lowest percentage of people not being confident with 26%, Millennials at 30%, and a staggering 40% of Gen Xers. While retirement confidence levels can fluctuate over time depending on market conditions, inflation, and economic uncertainty, the survey highlights an important reality, and that it is that many Americans still wonder how much they will need to retire comfortably and whether they're truly prepared. A TIAA survey underscores deeper vulnerabilities, reporting that 30% of Americans are not confident that they can even cover basic day-to-day expenses for the remainder of their lives. If you happen to be among the large group of people who aren't confident in their ability to retire comfortably, there are steps you can take to improve your confidence.
Yep. Our special report titled, Can I Afford to Retire? Is a good first step that provides you with items that you should consider when you're considering a retirement and whether you're financially ready. But let's talk about the steps that you should start today. Retirement readiness is not just about reaching a certain age. It's about ensuring you have the financial security to enjoy the next phase of your life, whatever that phase might look like. To determine if you're on target for a successful retirement, you need to understand your current financial status and project what your future needs might be.
The first thing you should do is determine how much you have. This is a simple tally of all your savings and investments. If you have multiple accounts from different jobs, you need to understand the different ones and try to combine them all under one. If your nest egg spread across multiple different accounts like 401ks or IRAs, if so, do you understand the different tax implications of those accounts and how your future tax burden could change the underlying variables of your retirement income strategy? For example, if you have a traditional IRA and you feel good about the $1 million you have sitting there, you feel pretty good about it until you realize that a large part will go to the IRS when you take a withdrawal or start RMDs.
Tax planning before retirement can play an important role in helping you create a more tax-efficient retirement income strategy. Understanding how taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts work together may help reduce unnecessary taxes later in retirement. If you own your own business, you should determine how much of your net worth is tied up in your business. The key here is that an exit plan and to be able to turn that illiquid wealth into a tangible retirement income.
Yeah, as part of your pre-retirement checklist, you may also want to evaluate outstanding debt, emergency savings, insurance coverage, and estate planning. While you're looking at your investments and savings, it's also a good time to consider what your current lifestyle looks like and how that lifestyle might change after you enter retirement. Are you planning to stay in the same house? Do you have extensive travel plans? Are there items on your bucket list that you can't wait to complete? We would suggest creating a target number and start your own program to save towards them.
Next, you need to create an estimate of your expenses in retirement to include healthcare costs. This is easier said than done because variables outside of your control play a factor. Just think about how bad inflation has been in the past few years. Imagine going into retirement on a fixed income and now your expenses have increased 20%. Obviously, the expenses you have while you are employed are different than when you are retired. However, do not assume your expenses will go down. Often people find that their expenses actually increase. According to a Schroders 2026 U.S. retirement survey, nearly half of all retirees reported that their retirement costs more than they planned for.
Healthcare costs in retirement is one of the most underestimated expenses in retirement. Medicare and retirement planning should include considerations for premiums, supplemental insurance, prescription drug coverage, and potential long-term care costs. In addition to healthcare, think about housing, travel, family support, charitable giving, and lifestyle spending. These factors can all influence how much retirement income you may need. If this sounds a little scary, consider not planning for these things before you retire. Like they say, failing to plan is akin to planning to fail. You would be in a bad position if you retired and had not planned for all of these things, or all of these items. Beginning to plan for retirement now will help you have enough money to adequately fund your retirement.
So, no discussion of retirement planning would be complete without discussing your Social Security claiming strategy. Each person's situation is different, and the reasons people want to take Social Security at their earliest possible time, or the person who delays until they're age 70, the age when your Social Security benefits cap out. Many people don't know this, but you can actually start receiving your Social Security benefits as early as age 62. The catch is that if you take your benefits at age 62, your monthly check will be permanently reduced up to 30%. And in retirement, that's a big price to pay for starting Social Security at the earliest possible time. So, Sherry, we're closing in on the end of the show. Why don't you finish this out?
I would encourage people to call us at 478-922-8100 and schedule an appointment with one of our advisors, regardless of where you are in life, whether you're starting a job, middle of retirement, depending on whatever you're doing. And just bring all the information to us. We'll send you a form to fill out, and you bring us all of your income, assets, debt, all of that. And we can help you lay out a plan for getting where you want to be later in life.
Yep.
It's extremely important to talk to a person.
That's right. Planning for retirement doesn't need to frighten you, but it is a critical aspect of financial wellness and a topic that is best addressed sooner rather than later. Anyway, we're at the end of the show, folks, and we do greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to be with us, and we look forward to being with you next week.
And check out our website, retirerelax.com.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about them by visiting their website, retirerelax.com. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like them to cover in next week's broadcast, you can email Randy at rfmoney.com. They look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.